Hello, and welcome to WTF, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
our posting schedule,
where we talk about reading, writing, and some other stuff too, but today is about beta reading. Now, who are we?
I am Mariella May. I'm currently...
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too, my sister. I'm currently working on a fantasy duology that I have a lovely sister helping me on. She has been pretty much every reader and editor you could imagine. Beta reading, alpha reading, editing, all of the things. So my fantasy duology is obviously not out currently, but we are well on the way
working on it really
putting
hard.
It out.
Hello, my name is Aubin and Ella. I am the author of The Second Nature of Indigo, which is a coming-of-age historical fiction novel with sprinkles of circus and dashes of murder. And it is out everywhere you enjoy books. Yeah. So, Ella, why are we talking about beta reading?
Well, beta reading is incredibly important.
Well, tell me why.
Depending on how your story is made, you could want it's not quite a line edit, it's not quite an alpha edit. It's getting into the smaller stuff, but it's not yet word choice exactly. So it's basically like readers before you publish it.
If an author friend of yours sent this video to you because they want you to be their beta editor, reader? Also, like, congratulations, they must really, beta reader, they must really trust you.
Yeah.
Now we're going to teach you, or give you some pointers on how to do this really, really well, because it is super easy to be really not to be very unhelpful. And
so something I'm first going to mention, because you said editing. Beta reading and beta editing are different. As we said in our previous video, alpha editing,
which is also super great, and you should go watch it now.
Yes. Even if you're a beta reader, all the points we have in there are still helpful for you. So,
as a beta reader, you must understand that you are not the beta editor. The beta editor is usually the author or someone they pay specifically to beta edit. As a beta reader, you are simply giving your active thoughts on the book as if you could magically talk to the author. Like, imagine you're reading Six of Crows, but as a beta reader, and then you could, actually talk to Lee Bardugo. I mean, what? That's amazing. Yeah. So, give that same thought and appreciation to whomever, I guess, you are working with now. So what does that exactly mean?
Yeah, it's like when you're reading a book. If you annotate, it's basically that. It's like, okay, I didn't really understand this. This is weird. Ooh, I want to see how this ties in. If it doesn't, you're like, I really wanted to see how that tied in. So you tell the author, you're like, man, I really got really excited about that point. And then the author's like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot I left that hint. Yeah. So it's just another set of eyes. Like, I was asking Aubin to help me with a drawing, and she was basically my beta reader for my drawing. She was like, whoa, that character's head is a little too big, and that one's a little too small. And I was like, oh, okay.
Where did his butt go?
I liquefied everything.
So what are you supposed to be looking for specifically as a beta reader? Character arc moments. So unlike an alpha editor, which is really, really broad and really, really general, this is gradually, as the book gets closer and closer to final publishing edit, we get closer and closer into the manuscript. This is kind of the middle ground. So you're going to be looking at specific character arcs and moments specifically in these arcs. Do they make sense? Do you like them? How does it make you feel? Exact details lining up. This is super important because it's not just plot ideas. It's the dominoes exactly tipping over into each other.
So, even I had parts in my book where the emotional, I came back and wrote, a part next to each other much later. So the character was very different, and Aubin was like, whoa, okay, you need to smooth that over or just change how that character is acting. So that was super helpful. And it's just things you don't notice first time through. Biggest advice for anyone working on a book, get another set of eyes on it.
Yeah.
If they're actually going to give you helpful advice. If they're just going to be like, it was good,
then you don't really need them. To avoid. You want to start us off in avoiding stuff?
Saying you don't like the story or the book in general. Yeah. Because actually, as we mentioned in Alpha, if you're ranting, that's okay. If you're just like, I didn't like this. Yeah. Why?
There's more an author can pull from a rant than can pull from hey, how are you? I'm good. Yeah. The book was good. The book was bad. The book was okay. That is the least helpful you can be.
If you want to rant about how problematic it is, go for it in a nice way.
In a super nice way.
That author is trying. They are
really
working
hard to
really
write a good
hard.
book.
So rant nicely to them, and then
if it helps, you can do it on paper or through an organized text or email.
Or if you want to rant to yourself and then bring the plot points of your rant to the
that's
author,
also a super great idea.
Almost even better, because then they can just streamline it and don't have the emotional heart attack of having their poor precious work be so judged. So be nice and actually give them feedback.
Yeah. Another thing I thought of when I was writing this, like saying you don't like the book or story, if you are reading fantasy and you're just not a fantasy person, it's going to be kind of hard for you to
appreciate it
and read it. I mean, I don't know. I would say authors, when you're picking your beta reader, make sure that they like the general genre, premise. Make sure that they're going to like want to keep reading it, even if it was somebody else's book and if it was perfectly done, because you are giving them an unfinished, imperfect draft. So you want to make sure that they are solidly in the mood,
if you have someone who has a really big prejudice against romance, don't send them your romance novel.
Yeah.
It's just like...
That's just setting you up for disaster.
Because you're going to get a rant, but it's not actually going to have any substance. It's just like, oh, you did a romance. How could you?
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Choose your beta readers carefully. And if you're a beta reader and you're like, I just don't think, I don't think I have the time for this, mental space for this, I don't like this... it's not my vibe. I don't think I can do a good job editing this story or reading over this story.
Even if it's
just... please help your author to figure that out, because they need someone and they might need to replace you.
Yeah. Especially don't just be like, I can do that if you don't feel comfortable doing it.
People did that to me, and it was like, then it was time. We had a publishing deadline, so we were like, hey, we need you guys to finish this book in the next 2 weeks. Is that possible for you?
They're like, yeah.
And they were like, yes, it's possible. And then, they never really got back to us. So it's important that you understand what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Fine-tuning the deliverance of info. So in alpha editing and reading, you kind of are just making the info or making sure you have the info. But in beta, you're fine-tuning what that information is and when and how you deliver it. So as we talked about in the alpha reading video, the deliverance of information is probably one of the most key parts of your book. So, as a beta reader, make sure you pay particular attention to when and how you receive information, and is it enough? How did it make you feel? Blah-de-da-de-da. All that stuff. Details about world building, historical accuracy, and sensitivity.
So this is like if... Also, I would say, because I'm writing fantasy, so my brain's always in fantasy, with that, it's magic for me, or whatever fantasy aspects you have. If it's like the texture of the world, like how is it built? Why is that person just drinking water casually? I thought that this was like a deserted island where there's no stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's just like keeping things consistent, Aubin with historical accuracy.
Yep.
So much time spent on historical accuracy. That's why I'm writing a fantasy book.
I will say it's not your job as the beta reader to go through and fix all of that stuff, but if you ever have a question like, oh, that surprised me, like, is this true? I guess it's easier with fantasy because everything should theoretically be on the page to make sense for you, unless there's some required reading for your fantasy novel.
It should be very complicated.
And then usually there are separate editors and readers for sensitivity, so that shouldn't be your job unless the author specifically asks you to do that. Metagaming, we also talked about this in the alpha reading video, but it stands true. If the author is your best friend or whatever,
and you rant to them all
the time, or they rant to you all the time, you probably know some things you shouldn't.
You cannot metagame the story. No. Because an average reader is not best friends with the author.
No.
Sadly.
Yes.
So
you gotta know all the behind the scenes stuff. You gotta make it main scene.
Something that I didn't mention, or we didn't mention in the alpha reading video, is that if it's information from, let's say, a prequel or a first book, or like if it's in a series and you have knowledge, obviously, from a previous book, that's fine. It's not metagaming at all. I mean, that's like knowing the chapter before.
Well, I don't know. For my second book, I want it to also be a standalone novel because it's technically a different series. So I want to have people who've never read Indigo read it, and then also people who have.
Basically, authors' biggest point to you is know your intent with your beta reader. What do you want from them? What kind of advice do you want? Is it in the same story, and do you want it separate, like that? Or just figure out what you're looking for and what genre it is, and that was something I was going to say.
Yeah.
Not just what genre it is, what style of prose.
Oh.
I have very poetic prose. I'm also a poet. So
yeah,
if someone really likes just more straightforward prose, I'm not going to send it to them because their advice would be so shrouded with them already trying to like deal with a style of writing that they don't like. So just also ask them that. I mean, I feel like that's something that you don't know at face value as much. You're not like, so do you like poetic the writing?
And you can always be surprised as well.
Yeah, I mean, there are writing styles that I thought I would really dislike but ended up loving. So
yeah, just
always be, I guess, like intentional. That is what I was looking for. I was like, it's not cautious, it's intentional. Nice.
So we talked about what not to do. Let's talk about instead what to do. I would say break it down scene by scene. Like, you don't have to take notes after every scene if there wasn't anything noteworthy in that scene, but like, that's how critically you should be thinking of the book.
Picture it like you're annotating a book, like a normal book. You're just underlining stuff, highlighting stuff, so you can remember. Also, I would say if you get it, it would be great if you have a physical copy or a doc that you can edit. Just highlighting stuff and adding comments is going to be so helpful when you look back. Yeah. A lot of times I feel like I read stuff and then I look back and I'm like, yeah, it was all pretty good, but I had like points when I was reading it for the first time being like, no, that's weird. Yeah. I don't get that. So also for authors out there, I would suggest having at least 2 beta readers, because if you have one, you could it's a really shift narrow your story to a very specific angle. Yes. And like another beta reader could be like, oh yeah, that didn't bother me at all. I understood that. And then someone else would be like, whoa, okay, it took me a minute to understand that. And that's why I would suggest more like 3 to 5 beta readers, because then you can see like the overall most common things. Like if everyone's like, okay, that was weird, you're like, okay, that's definitely off. Yeah. But if it's like only one person is like, yeah, that didn't really make sense to me, it can be, you could edit it a little bit or like hear their specific advice, but don't like shift your whole thing for that.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Because I feel like also you might fall into the problem of over-explaining your story in your story. Yes. Which is kind of annoying to read.
It is.
So. Yeah. That's my note for you guys.
So another thing that I guess I meant to put into avoid, try not to help with things you don't know about. So if you don't know about the Victorian era, don't correct people about
corsets.
If you want to do that research, go ahead, but like that seems like a lot of work. I know, because I have to do that work as the author. If there is something that you think is off, then maybe highlight it, make a note, and then the author can do that research.
Or you could just like ask or Google it or something, just kind of, because probably the author has a lot of things on their plate right now, and that's partially why they're asking for your help. So if you could just like figure it out some other way, that would probably be really nice for them. Also for
I guess it depends on what kind of beta you're reading.
Kind of like the flip of that, if you have someone who is very knowledgeable about a subject, definitely take their advice. Like, even if you're like, but that will have to change so many things for that. If it is historically inaccurate, that is going to be annoying for people who know that time period or know that stuff. So being accurate and being true to your setting is probably more important than whatever thing you're going to have to fix. I'm very sorry. There's going to be so much stuff you have to fix. Yeah.
It's just part of the writing process.
It's part of the writing process. And it can be really fun, and you can come up with new ideas that you never would have thought of.
That make things just so much better.
A lot of times for artists, it's suggested you make 50 thumbnails before you ever make a full drawing, because your first idea is probably not going to be your best one. So if someone's like, that that needs to be fixed. You don't just be like, but it was my vision. Be like, okay, cool, I can come up with another thing.
Yeah.
Just hold it loosely, hold it lovingly, and make a great story.
Yeah, that relates to one of our other videos. Man, POV or writing a novel, maybe?
Maybe.
Or...
We have a whole playlist.
We have a whole playlist of writing advice.
Yeah.
We'll put it up. You can go and find it. And it's full of wonderful stuff. And we're always updating it every week. So
yeah, whatever you're in. Like, we have so much different stuff. We have stuff about writing romance. We have stuff about
editing itself.
I think we have at least 2 videos about editing.
Oh, yeah. Drafting.
Talk a lot about editing. Yeah, drafting.
Mm-hmm. So whatever stage you're at, we got you.
We got you. And thank you for working on your book. I'm so proud.
Yes.
Or working on someone else's book. Thank you from them. I'm so glad that people are working on books. So
yeah,
really happy you're here. If you also just like hearing someone else, particularly us, talk about books, we have a playlist called Book Tea, which is where we just talk about books that we like. So if that's your vibe, we also have that up here.
Yep.
And
thank you guys so much for watching to the end of the video, and we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.